My older brother is an imperial physician, but he fell in love with a concubine in the palace. She couldn't have children, so he tricked me into entering the palace to sleep with the emperor. After I gave birth to a prince, they handed me a cup of poisoned wine and sent me to the afterlife. Later, because of the child, she rose in rank and became the empress. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn, right inside the emperor's bedchamber. The grand and empty palace hall was dimly lit by candlelight. I stared blankly at the golden dragon embroidered on the bed canopy. This was the emperor's sleeping quarters. And at this moment, I had nothing on me except for a corner of the quilt loosely covering my lower abdomen. Beside me, the emperor was breathing lightly in his sleep, clearly resting soundly. I sat up and touched my icy cold arm. The red mark that signifies virginity had already faded. My body was covered in ambiguous bruises, and even the slightest movement made me feel sore all over. I pulled the quilt over myself and slowly began to gather my thoughts. I had been reborn. Reborn on the very day I mistakenly entered the emperor's chamber and lost my virginity to him. In my previous life, Consort Lee had fallen ill, and my brother asked me to enter the palace to keep her company. She and my brother had grown up together and were childhood sweethearts. She always treated me like a younger sister. Later, for the sake of her future, she entered the palace and became one of the emperor's concubines. My brother also left our family's clinic and became an imperial physician. When I heard she was sick, I was really worried. I was glad to have the chance to visit and care for her. A few days after entering the palace, my brother asked me to go with him to the Imperial Medical Bureau to fetch some medicine. I was holding the medicine and following behind him, but after we turned a corner, he disappeared. In this unfamiliar palace filled with strict rules, I didn't dare move around, so I stayed put and waited for him to return. When I heard footsteps behind me, I thought it was him. I turned around in delight, only to see an unfamiliar face. His cheeks were unnaturally flushed, and there was a wild, lustful look in his eyes. The medicine in my hands spilled onto the ground, and he grabbed me, lifting me off the ground and carrying me straight into a bedchamber. I couldn't fight him off. My limbs were weak and wouldn't respond. By the time I regained consciousness, I was in this exact state. I reached out to check my own pulse, and sure enough, my dear brother had added something to the tea he gave me back in the medical bureau. And judging from what just happened, the emperor must have been drugged too, through his food or drink. In my past life, when I woke up, I didn't have time to think. I immediately lashed out at the man beside me, shouting at him for being a shameless scoundrel. I even scratched his face. Only then did I learn the man who had taken my virginity was the emperor. He flew into a rage and shouted for the guards, wanting to punish me for my insolence. But the ones who came in were Consort Lee and my brother. They took me back to her palace. She pleaded with the emperor on my behalf. She said since he had already slept with me, he should at least give me a proper title. But I didn't want any title. I just wanted to leave the palace. My brother said he was worried I might harm myself if I left and that no one would be able to take care of me, so he insisted I stay. A month later, I was diagnosed as pregnant. When the emperor found out, he sent over some rewards and instructed Consort Lee to take good care of me. But he didn't mention anything else. Consort Lee said he didn't like me because I'd scratched his face. But once I gave birth, she said I would be given a proper title, maybe even be named a noble lady. But I didn't care about becoming a noble lady. I didn't even want the child. Every day, Consort Lee would hold my hand and try to persuade me. The emperor had few heirs. He was already 24 and only had one daughter. If I gave birth to a prince, I'd be the greatest contributor to the royal bloodline. Even if the emperor didn't like me, the Empress Dowager would protect me. Besides, I had her and my brother. No matter what, there would be a place for me in the harem. Still, I refused. Later, my brother told me that harming a royal heir was a serious crime. If I deliberately got rid of the child, not only would I die, I'd bring down the entire family with me. Consort Lee promised me that if I gave birth, she would raise the child well. She and my brother both swore they'd help me leave the palace afterward. I was foolish enough to believe them. I was kept in a side hall of Consort Li's launching palace, forbidden to take even a single step outside. To ensure a safe pregnancy, my brother came every day to check my pulse, and Consort Li constantly reminded me to take supplements. The days were long and dull, so I spent all my time with books. On the day I went into labor, my brother was waiting outside. After a full day and night of pain, I finally heard the baby's first cry. I lay on the bed completely exhausted, and the midwife carried the baby out. Consort Li arrived moments later, having heard the cry. All our efforts paid off. It's a prince. He's chubby and fair. A very lovable child, just at first glance. I listened to her joyful voice. I thought she would treat the child well, and that I could finally leave the palace in peace. I was about to close my eyes to rest when I heard my brother's cold voice. My dong died in childbirth, but she did her best to protect the royal heir. Please accept our condolences, Your Grace. My heart turned ice cold. I struggled to sit up, but was pinned back down. Before I could question my brother and Consort Li, the midwife forced poison down my throat. The sharp pain in my belly and the cold spreading through my body overwhelmed me. I had put my trust in Consort Li. She raised my child, climbed higher in rank, and eventually became the Empress. I had trusted my brother, who only ever loved his childhood sweetheart. For her, he betrayed his own sister. The memories of my past life brought stabbing pain to my heart. Right now, I was certain Consort Li and my dear brother were already waiting outside the hall. I turned my head to look at the Emperor, who was still sleeping soundly. I lay down and rolled toward him, nestling into his arms. Since you're so easily manipulated, let me play the game too. My icy body pressed against his, making him shiver. Still half asleep, he instinctively grabbed my neck. Who's there? Tears welled in my eyes. I weakly grabbed his arm and softly whimpered, "It hurts." He let go. His eyes followed the fallen quilt and looked down at me. With just one glance, he understood everything.
Who are you?
How did you end up here? Tears still glimmered in my eyes. I'm the sister of Imperial Physician He. I came into the palace to help care for Consort Li. My brother asked me to pick up some herbs from the bureau. I got lost on the way back, and when I ran into you. My face flushed red. I lowered my head and pulled the quilt up to cover my chest. I didn't need to finish the sentence, he understood. He still looked suspicious. During today's palace banquet, he had indeed drunk too much. And the medicinal tonic he'd taken earlier, when mixed with alcohol, would naturally stir up desire. My wonderful brother had made sure I drank drugged tea, and he told me to wait right outside the Emperor's sleeping chambers. Running into him, like a lamb walking into a tiger's den, meant only to be devoured. But in his eyes, everything I did seemed like I was deliberately seducing him. I looked up, eyes red with tears, and asked him, "Who are you to treat me like this? When my brother finds out, he'll kill you." He seemed amused, letting out a cold laugh. "Your brother? That timid little imperial doctor He? He doesn't have the guts." He lifted my chin and stared into my eyes. Besides, what just happened between us? This was imperial favor, not bullying. I pretended to be shocked, my mouth hanging open but no words coming out. Then I pulled the blanket over myself and curled up underneath it. "I don't even know who you are. Just have someone bring me clothes. Once I'm dressed, I'll leave." But he lifted the covers again and pulled me into his arms. "Sleep with me and then try to leave? You're bold." He held me close, breathing in the scent of my hair. What is this smell? I've never smelled anything like it before. It helped me sleep so well just now. Embarrassed, I lowered my head, avoiding his blatantly lustful gaze. "It's just the smell of common herbs. I've worked with them for years. It's rubbed off on me." His hand began to wander restlessly. "I like the scent. It's far better than the cloying perfumes those other women wear." He leaned over me again. This time, he was much gentler, much more patient. The lust brought on by the medicinal aphrodisiac had long faded. Now, it was just a man's desire for a woman. I didn't know how to respond to this kind of affection, so I could only plead softly. Perhaps intoxicated by desire, I found myself gripping the strong muscles of his arm. Looking up at his strikingly handsome face, I suddenly didn't find him so repulsive. After all, taking my body hadn't been his original intent. And amidst this absurdity, I had felt pleasure too. With that thought, I clung to his arm and cried out even more sweetly. His mood improved even more, and he turned me over again and again until I had no strength left. Afterward, he held me against his chest, gently tucking the messy strands of hair behind my ear. "I like you. What's your name?" I'm Himai Dong." The lingering tremors in my body hadn't faded yet, and I leaned softly against his chest, my voice so coy even I was surprised by how seductive it sounded. "My Dong? Isn't that a wild herb? What a rustic name. Why don't I give you a new one?" He chuckled as he spoke, his fingers tracing from my hair to my earlobe again. "My Dong moistens the lungs, nourishes in, strengthens the stomach, generates fluids, calms the heart, and relieves restlessness. It's a very good herb, nothing rustic about it." I slapped his hand away and turned my head with a huff. A large hand cupped my cheek, forcing me to look into his eyes. "My Dong, do you know I'm the Emperor?" No one's ever dared to slap my hand away like that. Seeing the mischievous smile in his eyes, I reluctantly changed my tone. You want to rename me? Then go ahead. You're the Emperor. If you wanted to kill or flay me, I'd still have to thank you." He laughed heartily and pulled me back into his embrace. "Truly, women and petty men are the hardest to deal with. I just said a word, and you're already grumbling." He pinched the soft flesh at my waist, making me yelp. "I wouldn't bear to kill you. I want you to stay by my side. Would you be willing?" Hearing his affectionate words, I sighed inwardly. When he dragged me into this palace hall, he never asked if I was willing. And now, after everything, he finally thinks to ask me. If I said no, would he really let me go? Besides, even if he did, the consort lay outside, and my brother would never let me leave the palace. I traced circles on his chest with my finger. "I'm already yours. If you're asking now, does that mean you were planning to just pull up your pants and walk away without taking responsibility?" He burst out laughing and caught my wandering hand. "You really are a wild herb. No one's ever dared talk to me like that." I feigned annoyance and tried to pull my hand back. "That's just how I am. If you don't like it, then I don't want to stay with you either. You'd better let someone take me out of the palace." He pressed my hand tightly to his chest. "When did I ever say I didn't like it? I like it very much." Then he called out loudly for someone to come in, never mind that both of us were still disheveled and half-dressed. As the doors opened, I wrapped the blanket around myself and hid behind him, but he didn't care at all, still smiling. Just as expected, it was Consort Lee and my brother who entered. But standing beside them was also a eunuch holding a horsetail whisk. "Your Majesty, please forgive her. My sister is entering the palace for the first time and doesn't understand the rules. If she's offended you in any way, I'll take full responsibility," my brother said, dropping to his knees with a loud thud without even looking up. Consort Lee followed suit. "Your Majesty, the He family's girl grew up with me. She's always been innocent and kind. She would never deliberately enter your sleeping chambers, let alone try to seduce you. I beg you, for my sake, please don't blame her." The words and actions were exactly the same as in my previous life. Back then, when they came in, I had scratched the Emperor's face, and the two of us had glared at each other like angry roosters. Now, I just kept my head down like a scolded quail, avoiding eye contact with the two people at the door. Soon, if the Emperor didn't speak, Consort Lee would ask to take me back to her palace. And once I returned, it would be the same as being imprisoned. I leaned close to the Emperor and whispered, "Hurry and tell them I didn't offend you, and I didn't seduce you." He looked back at me with a smile in his eyes. "Dressed like that, and you still say you didn't seduce me?" Following his gaze, I looked down and saw a glimpse of pale skin showing at my chest. I quickly tightened the blanket and ducked behind him again, pinching his waist. "So many people are here. Don't talk nonsense. Why so quiet now?" Just a moment ago, you were moaning pretty loudly." He winced at the pain and grabbed my hand, rubbing it gently. Perhaps sensing the suggestive air in the room, both my brother and consort Lee looked up. "See no evil," the eunuch beside them drawled loudly. He shot a glare at my kneeling brother and flicked his whisk as he stepped forward. "Your Majesty, please forgive me. I know you never allow concubines to spend the night in the Purple Hall. This was my oversight. I deserve to die for this." From behind the emperor, I peeked out to get a good look at this head eunuch. He bowed his head humbly and apologized, but there wasn't the slightest trace of fear on his face, as though he'd done nothing wrong. Humph, hypocrite. "But he said the emperor never allowed consorts to stay the night here. Does that mean I'm the first woman to lie in this bed? No wonder the emperor tried to strangle me the moment he woke up. He's probably used to sleeping alone. It's fine. From now on, Consort Chen is permitted to stay here for the night." The eunuch was visibly stunned by this, then quickly knelt. "Your servant greets Consort Chen, wishing your grace everlasting peace and fortune." I scratched the emperor's back lightly and whispered, "Who's Consort Chen?" Before I could get a reply, my brother knocked his head loudly on the floor again. "My foolish younger sister is young and unruly. She's unworthy of such favor, Your Majesty. Please reconsider." He looked up at me and said, "My dong, hurry and ask His Majesty to take back his decree." I glared at him. Does he really think I don't understand? The emperor wants to make me a consort. He probably thinks it's unfair that I got a title just for spending a night with the emperor, while his beloved had to spend 3 years clawing her way up to the rank of concubine. Too bad. I'm not letting him have his way. I earned this consort title myself, and after all the tossing and turning last night, my body still aches. If the emperor wants to give it to me, I'll take it. I want to be ranked above the one he holds dear. The hall fell silent. I sensed that the emperor wasn't pleased. Before he could speak, the eunuch stepped forward. "How dare you, Hirindong? Do you think you can casually call her grace by name?" My brother kept bowing, chanting, "Please reconsider, Your Majesty," like a loyal minister offering his last dying advice. "Your Majesty," said Consort Lee softly, "I know you favor my dong, but she's just received your affection. If you show her such favor now, it might stir gossip in the palace." Her voice was gentle and reasonable, making it hard to argue. "She's only been here a few days and doesn't know the palace rules. How about letting me take her back to guide her personally, and once she's better prepared, you can proceed with her investiture? What do you think, Your Majesty?" She was indeed beautiful, worthy of the title Lee, Beauty. She was still pretending to be sick, her face even paler than before, looking especially delicate and pitiable. I was genuinely worried the emperor might listen to her. Because, well, she did make sense. Nervously gripping the blanket, I thought, if the emperor agrees to let Consort Lee take me away, how will I escape again? In my previous life, once they took me, I never left her palace, not even once. I never saw the emperor again. Every time he came, I'd be locked away in a side room. At that time, we couldn't stand each other. Better not to meet at all. So every time he visited, I just stayed quietly out of sight, afraid he'd punish me for scratching his face. But this time, if she dares lock me up again, I swear I'll smash vases and plates and make a huge scene. Lost in thought, I didn't notice how cold the emperor's face had become. "Hirindong, how dare you question my decision? Since you're Consort Chen's brother, I'll overlook it this time." I immediately perked up and sat straight behind the emperor. In my heart I thought, don't let him off so easily. Charge him with disrespect and have him beaten. That'd make me feel a whole lot better. Consort Lee's face turned even paler. Clearly, the emperor's scolding of my brother upset her. Just as I was secretly rejoicing, the emperor spoke again. "And to think, in this palace, my favor towards someone requires others' approval." The moment he said this, my brother bowed even lower, and Consort Lee fell to her knees with a thud. "Consort Lee," the emperor said, "I appreciate your concern, but you're only a concubine. It's hardly your place to instruct a consort." He gently squeezed my hand and continued, "Besides, You've been ill recently. If you pass your illness to my dong, what then? Hearing this, I felt relieved. Looks like I won't have to return to that dark little annex. I squeezed his hand back, happy. The emperor waved a hand at the eunuch. Lu Fuchuan, arrange for someone to help Consort Chen wash and change, and have the Ministry of Rites begin preparations for her investiture ceremony. Eunuch Lu stepped forward and asked where I would be placed. The only vacant palace suitable for a principal consort is Yong'an Palace, he said, but it recently had a roof leak and is under repair. If Her Grace wishes to move into Yong'an, we could take this opportunity to fully renovate it. In the meantime, she'll need to stay somewhere else. Consort Li looked up and offered sweetly, I'm willing to let Consort Chen stay in the main hall of Lanqing Palace. I'll move to the side hall, so we sisters can keep each other company. Who's your sister? Still trying to drag me back to Lanqing Palace? I tugged at the emperor's hand and mumbled, Lanqing is too far. Yes, it's too far. We'll find somewhere closer. The emperor didn't even acknowledge Consort Li. He simply patted my hand and looked straight at Eunuch Lu. Lu Fuchuan, did you hear that? The eunuch bowed and addressed me. The side hall of Zichen Palace is currently vacant. With a bit of tidying up, it will be ready. The side hall of Zichen Palace? Isn't that right next to where the emperor sleeps? My neck suddenly felt cold. The emperor looked at me with a smile and nodded in satisfaction. Lu Fuchuan always thinks ahead. But I wonder, what does my beloved consort think? That beloved consort title went straight to my head. All this over a night together, and now I'm his beloved? But then I thought, with the emperor backing me, my brother and Consort Li wouldn't be able to touch me. So I clung to his arms sweetly and said, I'll do whatever you say. Zichen Palace was the emperor's residence, and neither its main hall nor side halls had anything prepared for a woman. Lu Fuchuan brought in a crowd of maids and eunuchs, bustling about. The emperor dressed and went out. Just as I finished washing up, Consort Li and my brother came to request an audience. Lu Fuchuan accompanied me to meet them. The moment they entered, my brother rushed over. My dong, what's going on? Why is the emperor suddenly favoring you so much? Eunuch Lu stepped between us. How dare you, Hirin Dong? In Her Grace's presence, you don't kneel? My brother and Consort Li reluctantly bowed. Eunuch Lu, may I ask a favor? My brother asked, looking up. Might I have a moment alone with my sister? I glanced at Eunuch Lu and nodded slightly. He lowered his head humbly, muttering apologies, but there was not a trace of fear on his face. None of the guilt one would expect from someone at fault. Humph, such hypocrisy. But he said the emperor never allowed palace concubines to sleep here. Am I really the first woman to lie on this bed? No wonder the emperor tried to strangle me as soon as he woke up. He must be used to sleeping alone. No matter, from now on, Consort Chen is permitted to sleep here. Upon hearing this, the eunuch visibly froze for a moment, then knelt down immediately. Your servant pays respects to Consort Chen. May Consort Chen be blessed with long-lasting peace. I scratched the emperor's back and whispered, Who is Consort Chen? Before he could answer, my brother kowtowed again with a loud thud. Your servant's sister is young and ignorant, stubborn and unruly, unworthy of His Majesty's great favor. Your servant is fearful and begs the emperor to reconsider. He looked up and glared at me. My dong, you'd better ask the emperor to revoke his decree. I gave him a sharp glare. Did he really think I didn't understand? The emperor wanted to make me a consort. He must feel it's unfair that I got the consort title after just sleeping with the emperor once, while his beloved has only crawled up to the rank of concubine after 3 years in the palace. Too bad. I'm not going to let him have his way. This consort title is mine. I earned it by sleeping here. After all the fuss, my body still aches. If the emperor offers, then I'll take it. I want to be above his beloved. The hall fell silent for a moment. I sensed the emperor was displeased. Before he could speak, the eunuch broke the silence. How dare you, Hirin Dong? Consort Chen's name is not for you to speak so casually. My brother kept kowtowing, muttering again and again for the emperor to reconsider, playing the role of a loyal minister offering harsh advice. Your Majesty, I know you favor Sister Mai Dong, but she just recently gained favor. Such attention might spark rumors in the palace. Consort Li spoke softly and delicately, her words sounding reasonable. Besides, she's only been in the palace a few days and doesn't know the rules well. Why not let me take her back and carefully teach her? Then we can proceed with her official investiture. What do you think? She was very beautiful, worthy of the name Consort Li. At this moment, she was pretending to be ill, her face even paler than before, looking fragile and charming. I was afraid the emperor would listen to her, because what she said made sense. I nervously clutched the blanket, thinking that if the emperor agreed to let Consort Li take me back, how would I escape afterward? In my previous life, after they took me back, I never left her palace chamber and never saw the emperor again. Whenever the emperor came by, I was locked away in a side chamber. At that time, we hated each other so much it was better not to meet at all. So whenever he came, I just quietly stayed in the room, afraid that if he saw me, he'd punish me for scratching his face. This time, if she dares lock me up again, I'll smash vases and plates and make a huge scene. Lost in thought, I didn't notice the emperor's face had already turned ice cold. He Nin Dong, how dare you question my decision? Since you are Consort Chen's brother, I'll let you off this time. I immediately sat up straight behind the emperor, feeling energized. I thought, don't spare him, punish him for disrespect, even beat him a few times to calm me down. Consort Li's face turned even paler. Apparently, the emperor's reprimand upset her. Just as I was quietly pleased, the emperor spoke again. Yet, I do not understand why. In this palace, who I favor and who I cherish must depend on others' opinions. When he said this, my brother's body bent even lower, and Consort Li also knelt with a thud. Consort Li, thank you for your concern, but as a mere concubine, you have no right to instruct a consort. He squeezed my hand and continued. Besides, you've been ill lately. What if you pass your illness to Mai Dong? What then? From what he said, it seemed I wouldn't have to go back to that cramped, dark side chamber. I was pleased and squeezed the emperor's hand in return. He raised his hand, signaling the eunuch. Lu Fuchuan, arrange for Consort Chen to be attended to for washing and changing. Also, have the Ministry of Rites prepare the investiture ceremony as soon as possible. Eunuch Lu Fuchuan stood up and asked where the emperor wanted me placed. There is only one main residence empty in the palace right now, Yong'an Hall. But it leaked a few days ago and is being repaired. If Consort Chen wants to take up residence there, I think it's a good chance to do a thorough renovation. But before that, Consort Chen must bear with staying elsewhere. Hearing this, Consort Li raised her head again. I am willing to give up the main hall of Lanqin Palace for Consort Chen to live in. I will move to the side hall, so the two sisters can keep each other company. Who said we were sisters? She still wanted to pull me off to Lanqin Palace. I tugged the emperor's hand and mumbled, Lanqin Palace is too far. Yes, Lanqin Palace is too far. Then, let's find somewhere closer. The emperor ignored Consort Li, patted my hand, then looked at Eunuch Lu. Lu Fuchuan, did you hear that? Lu Fuchuan bowed and saluted me. The side hall of Zichen Palace is empty now. It just needs some tidying, then you can move in. Zichen Palace side hall. That's right beside the emperor's bedchamber? A chill ran down my neck. The emperor smiled at me and nodded approvingly. Lu Fuchuan is thoughtful as always. But, my beloved consort, what do you think? That title, beloved consort, made my head spin. We'd only slept once. How did I become his beloved consort? But I thought, with the emperor backing me, neither my brother nor Consort Li could do anything to me. Thinking that, I clung to his arm, acting very obedient. I'll listen to you. Zichen Palace was the emperor's residence, and the side hall had no feminine belongings at all. Lu Fuchuan led a group of palace maids and eunuchs bustling in and out. The emperor got dressed and left. I had just finished washing when Consort Li and my brother came to request an audience outside the hall. Lu Fuchuan accompanied me to meet them. As soon as we entered, my brother hurried to me. Mai Dong, what's going on? Why does the emperor suddenly favor you so much? Eunuch Lu stepped in front of me. How dare you, he Dom? You haven't even knelt to consort Chin yet. My brother and consort Li reluctantly bowed. Eunuch Lu, could you please give us a moment alone so I can speak with my sister? My brother asked, looking up. I glanced at Lu Fuchuan for permission and nodded. After breakfast, 2 groups of imperial doctors came to carefully check my pulse. Then a lady from the wardrobe bureau arrived to measure me for new clothes. The head of the imperial kitchen personally came to ask what dishes I liked. The eunuchs from the imperial garden, along with little palace maids, brought all kinds of rare flowers and herbs for me to choose from. Lu Fuchuan said it was all by the emperor's order. Something felt off. Very off. How could the emperor in this life be so different from the one in my previous life? I asked Lu Fuchuan, do I look like anyone? For example, some old acquaintance of the emperor? He said, no, your highness, you don't even resemble Dr. He. I asked again, does the emperor have some secret preference? Tell me, I won't tell anyone. He immediately interrupted, the emperor is a gentleman of upright character. Your highness, please don't say such things. Then I asked, so, does the emperor secretly like someone but can't be with her now, and that's why he's using me as a stand-in? He sighed at last. Your highness, please don't trouble your servant. Can't you see? The emperor's true affection is for you. In Lu Fuchuan's eyes, I was a stubborn blockhead who just didn't get it. But I really couldn't understand why the same person could be so different. While sitting at the table drinking ginseng and astragalus chicken soup, I suddenly recalled that yesterday, when the maid helped me dress, the emperor had asked Lu Fuchuan, is there something different about my face? Lu Fuchuan said, no. Then the emperor said, look carefully again. After a brief pause, Lu Fuchuan replied, today the emperor is especially happy, radiant, and more handsome than ever, with an otherworldly charm. He must care a lot about his appearance. So when I scratched his face in the last life, I truly angered him. I'd better flatter him more often from now on, praise him as handsome as Panin and as graceful as Songyu, try to firmly secure this big tree to lean on. Rumor had it in the palace that I used seductive tricks. With only average looks, I climbed onto the dragon bed and gained favor. Even the usually strict Empress Dowager turned a blind eye to the emperor's unorthodox behavior. One day, Lady Li came to see me, her face bright with joy. The people in the palace are so used to gossiping, they're even saying you practice witchcraft. It's ridiculous. I saw her cover her mouth with a handkerchief to laugh, knowing her next words wouldn't be pleasant. There's news from the Empress Dowager's side. They say the emperor favored you because he had a strange dream. A little boy called him Father Emperor and said he would send a stranger woman to him. Isn't it a coincidence that at that very moment this stranger woman appeared? She casually plucked a flower and sniffed it. In this palace, who can really win the emperor's true heart? We're all just tools to continue the royal lineage. You too, little sister. Then she threw the flower on the ground and stomped on it. Speaking of which, among all of us behind these palace walls, who's really nobler than whom? The late Yang consort rose 3 ranks in 1 month, from a mere noble lady to a consort, shining like no other. But in the end, she was relegated to a cold palace and abandoned. I understood her meaning. The emperor favored me only because I could bear children, not because he truly loved me. But wasn't that how she and my brother schemed against me at first? Lady Li is right. True affection is the rarest treasure. But once inside this deep palace, how could we ever seek true affection? I touched the flower bud about to bloom on the branch. Maybe in this lifetime, I'll never know what true affection feels like. Easy to find priceless treasures, hard to find a loving man. Sister, I truly envy you. Hearing this, her hand stopped plucking the flower branch. Sister, don't lose a true heart for some worldly thing. She and my brother were childhood sweethearts and once had feelings for each other. My brother entered the Imperial Medical Institute just to stay close to her. To compete for favor, she emulated Zhao Fian of the former dynasty, starving herself, taking the wrong pills, damaging her health. My brother didn't get jealous seeing her work so hard for favor and even helped her as much as he could. He even sacrificed me, his own sister, for her. Isn't that a kind of true affection? If you can't have true affection, so what? Favor is just as good. She touched her face. With this beauty, why can't I trade it for favor? As for your brother, that's just his own obsession, foolishly coveting a palace consort. I really felt sorry for my foolish brother. That night, after I had fallen asleep, the emperor sneaked into my chamber. These past days, if he had many memorials to review, he'd summon me to the main hall, letting me sit and read or rest early. If not many, he would come to find me in my chamber after finishing. Tonight he didn't summon me, and I didn't want him to come, so I turned off the lights early, pretending to be asleep. When he entered, only Eunuch Lu stood by the door holding a lamp far away. The chamber was dim. I watched him slowly approach and sat up with a start. My beloved, you're not asleep? Resting so early tonight. Are you feeling unwell? I didn't scare him. My beloved, do you call everyone beloved? Or do you think my name sounds too plain? I don't know where this irritation came from, but I felt unhappy. Hearing this, Lu closed the door and ran off with the lantern. What's wrong? Who upset you? The emperor wasn't angry. He grabbed my hand and rubbed it in his palm. Forget it. Forget it. Go to sleep. Since he wasn't angry, I felt embarrassed to keep sulking. I crawled back under the covers. He pulled the covers over and climbed in too. I've never called anyone else beloved. I just think calling you that sounds intimate. If you don't like it, I won't call you that anymore. Ma Dong. Though I think your name is plain, the more I say it in my heart, the more it sounds dear. Speaking of which, my childhood name is pretty plain too. I turned around to look at him and asked what his childhood name was. At first, he was reluctant to say, but after I tickled the soft skin at his waist, he finally told me his childhood name was Zongbao. When I was born, I was weak. Father and mother feared I wouldn't grow strong, so they gave me this name, hoping our ancestors would protect me. Hearing him refer to himself as I decided to forgive him. From now on, when no one else is around, you call me Mai Dong, and I'll call you Zongbao. How about that? All right, as long as you like it, anything is fine. He pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on my head. I listened to the low hum from his chest. Mai Dong, how have you been these days? Any discomfort anywhere? I shook my head. That's good. Mai Dong, I boasted to mother that I'd make her an imperial grandmother soon, but honestly, I'm really afraid something might happen to you. Oh, so that's why Li Pin ran to me earlier saying those things. It all makes sense now. Mai Dong, I've already ordered people all over the country to find the best doctors and midwives. Don't worry, I'll do everything in my power to protect you. I looked up and asked him, You want me to have your child? Yes. That way, the ministers and mother won't have anything to say. When that time comes, even for the child's sake, you'll want to stay by my side. That sounded a little strange. But how do you know I can definitely conceive? There are so many consorts and noble ladies here who don't have children. Sometimes when a couple has no children, it's not always the woman's fault, implying maybe the emperor himself isn't capable. He caught the hidden meaning in my words and flipped me onto my back. No sowing, no reaping. But lately, I've been working so hard. Heaven won't just let me gain nothing. I was wrong. I shouldn't have tried to provoke him. After the investiture ceremony, I went to pay respects to the Empress Dowager. Before I left, the emperor told me he had already spoken well of me to her, so I didn't need to be nervous. The Empress Dowager didn't make things difficult, and even when I kowtowed, a lady-in-waiting thoughtfully placed a soft cushion for me. She had me stand in front of her, looked me over carefully, then said, You're indeed quite ordinary looking. If I had known His Majesty didn't like beautiful women, I wouldn't have bothered having anyone watch for beauties on his behalf. But being ordinary isn't bad. It means the emperor won't lose himself in women and neglect state affairs. Since His Majesty likes you and wants you by his side, then you should stay with him well. However, I hope His Majesty will keep his promise and soon let me hold an imperial grandson. If I find out he's only using you as a shield, I won't spare him, nor will I spare you. The Empress Dowager is the Empress Dowager. She never cares about others' feelings. I recalled what the Emperor said to me and cautiously spoke up. Empress Dowager, my family has been doctors for generations. I have practiced Bajuanjin and 5 animal frolics since childhood. My parents often gave me medicinal meals to nourish my body, so I am very healthy. As long as His Majesty is also in good health, the child will naturally come. Hearing this, a maid next to the Empress Dowager asked Lu Fuchuan, who was behind me, wasn't the Qin consort taught etiquette? How come she doesn't even know how to speak respectfully? Lu Gonggong hurriedly knelt and admitted fault. The emperor said he likes Qin consort's natural spirit and doesn't want her to forcefully change. The Empress Dowager waved her hand. Enough, enough. If the emperor likes her, then let him be. I'm old and can't manage the young people's affairs anymore. After leaving the Empress Dowager's palace, the news of what I said spread throughout the harem. Many consorts laughed at me for not knowing etiquette, while others came to congratulate me and ask how I kept healthy. I set up a medical case in my chamber and took the pulse of every sister willing to sit down. In these days, the palace maids and eunuchs have been repeatedly examined by me. They had no major health issues, but many of the pampered consorts suffered from various ailments. Sis, you should eat and drink properly. People are made of iron and steel. If you eat too little, you get thin, but your body won't hold up. Sis, you're already beautiful. No need to pursue overly pale skin. Some powders can whiten, but if they contain lead, that's bad for a woman. Sis, you should exercise more. Being delicate and weak invites pity, but we were born with legs to walk around. Don't worry about thick legs. You wear skirts, no one will notice. My chamber was lively every day, but Li Pin came less often. I heard she was ill again. My brother was attending to her bedside. A month later, I detected signs of pregnancy. The emperor didn't seem very happy. Yangon Palace had already been refurbished, but he never mentioned moving me there. As my belly grew, he spent more time with me. One day, my brother came to pay respects and brought a bottle of pills. He said he personally refined them, good for women to secure pregnancy and relieve morning sickness and fatigue. I opened the bottle and sniffed carefully, immediately sensing something wrong with the medicine. Brother, do you know that harming the imperial heir is a grave crime? Not only will the culprit die, but their entire family will be implicated. Don't think just because you're my brother, I won't bring justice even if it means punishing family. After becoming pregnant, my sense of smell grew sharper than before. Once, the emperor practiced swordsmanship and came to me without bathing. I vomited on the spot. Now he even dared not use incense. So how could I accept the bottle of pills my brother brought, smelling strongly of cinnabar? I kept my brother and Li Pin around to see how I would rise to power and secure my position through my child status, rather than give them further chance to harm me. If they refused to repent, then let them die. The Imperial Astronomy Bureau prayed for my unborn child and calculated that Li Pin's fate was incompatible with the little prince's. The emperor ordered her to be confined in Longxin Palace, not to be released unless he came personally. My brother came to plead on Li Pin's behalf. I was close to Li Pin before, but she obstructs the imperial heir. The Astronomy Bureau calculated this. I have no way around it. You also know how much the Empress Dowager and the emperor long for this child. He kowtowed repeatedly. You know I have lived for Lady Li all my life. Now you are honored as Qin consort and pregnant with the dragon heir. Why must you persecute a lowly, unfavored consort? Do you not want to accumulate blessings for yourself, or for the child in your womb? It was truly laughable. She is a mere consort, yet schemed against me, a commoner by birth. How come now, with the times changed, you shamelessly demand that I be magnanimous? I looked at my brother kneeling on the ground. Are you cursing my child? Aren't you afraid of losing your own life and never seeing your beloved again? His face went pale, but he still stubbornly argued. Does the consort really intend to commit kinslaying during pregnancy? I smiled faintly. It's not your time to die yet. Of course not. Since we were young, Mother taught us that we are blood siblings and should love and support each other. It's just that you've long forgotten. And I don't have to remember. But out of respect for your childhood friendship with her, I will petition the Emperor to grant you permission to tend to her in Longxin Palace. Eunuch Lu had already made arrangements. Messages would be passed from Longxin Palace. Consort Li was never much favored in the palace, and now confined, her treatment was even worse than before. In her despair, I realized how precious my brother's sincerity truly was. The long nights dragged on, and my brother voluntarily stayed. Knowing about their past, the Emperor held my hand to comfort me. I didn't know Consort Li and your brother were old acquaintances. She was brought into the palace by the Empress Dowager's decree. If their feelings run deep, after you safely give birth, I will have someone fabricate a false identity for Consort Li and send them both out of the palace. I supported my lower back and nodded. As the months grew larger, I often felt hot at night and didn't want to share the bed with the Emperor. I stayed in the side chamber. He would come see me after I fell asleep and then return to the main hall. One day, while he was discussing state affairs in the front hall, I found the sun outside too harsh, so I went to his chamber to walk around. Under his pillow, a corner of fabric peeked out, very much like the piece he hastily hid under the bedding that day. I pulled it out and blushed immediately. It was the small garment I wore the first time we were intimate in this hall. On it was a stalk of ophapagon, embroidered by my own hand. In my past life, I was so focused on maintaining purity after being wronged that I never noticed losing a piece of clothing. This time, Eunuch Lu had sent new clothes, and I hadn't cared where the old ones went. I didn't know the Emperor had this peculiar habit of secretly keeping women's clothes. That night, already asleep, I heard the Emperor's scolding from the main hall. He was usually kind to servants. I didn't know why he was so furious today. Holding my belly, I went to his hall and found a group kneeling on the floor. When they saw me, they quickly came to help me up. "Was my voice too loud and woke you?" he asked. I was woken by the baby kicking. "What's going on?" I glanced at the kneeling people. All regular attendants, including Lu Fuchuan. "It's nothing. Let me help you back to rest." I refused to leave. Lu Fuchuan honestly said, "Your Majesty's precious item from the bed is missing. Consort, only you came in today. You must give us justice." "That must be my little garment." I saw it and took it back. "Your Majesty, won't you explain why you're hiding my clothing?" After he escorted me back and massaged my legs, I asked him. This was the first time I spoke to him like this, making his already embarrassed face even more so. "Mao Dong, it wasn't intentional." It turned out he had been having trouble sleeping, but the herbal scent on my clothes helped him calm down. My little garment was left on his bed, so he kept it. Recently, after I sent him back to the main hall, he couldn't sleep again, so he took the garment out. When he couldn't find it today, he got angry. "If you need help calming your nerves, I'll sew a sachet with herbs for you." Every time I saw him sleeping soundly beside me, I never expected he had insomnia. "I'm a doctor too. If you have any discomfort, just tell me. There's no need to hide women's clothes." He hurriedly nodded. Yes, you're right. But lately, I've been troubled by lovesickness. Is there any cure?" I kicked him. "No cure. Just go back to sleep." Eunuch Lu followed me daily and recently often warned me. "Consort, you've been a little too spoiled with the Emperor lately. The Emperor enjoys it, but if the Empress Dowager hears, it won't be good. I'm a loyal minister, advising for your own good." I thought about what I'd done and his words, and he was right. As my body grew heavier and I couldn't do many things, I instructed the maids and eunuchs to gather and dry herbs and had the tailor bureau make 2 herbal sachets. One was for the Emperor, the other for the Empress Dowager. Everyone said they worked well. I wrote down the recipe and gave it to my visiting parents. "Father, mother, sell these. Made by your daughter. The Emperor and Empress Dowager both say they work well." They asked what to name the sachets. I thought a moment. "Call them natural sleep aid sachets." Before they left, I reminded them, "You have to share half the profits with me. Even in the palace, your daughter needs some spending money." The emperor teased me for being stingy. I ignored him. My brother now stayed with Consort Li, and no doubt had to get money from home to support her. The two of them would die eventually. If he used up all the family's money, what would happen to our parents? If my brother died in the palace, my parents surely wouldn't accept palace rewards. I wouldn't want that money either. It should be left for their retirement. The day of delivery drew nearer, and the emperor grew more anxious. On the day I gave birth, both he and the Empress Dowager waited outside the hall. I thought since I'd been walking daily and not overeating supplements, I'd suffer less pain, but it still hurt for most of the day. After the child was born, the midwife first held him for me to see. A tiny, wrinkled bundle, but his brows and eyes already bore his father's look. One day he would be like his father, handsome and heroic. After I tidied up, the emperor was the first to rush in. He held my hand, his eyes slightly red. "Mao Dong, are you all right? Do you feel any discomfort?" I shook my head. "Mao Dong, now that we have a child, the three of us should live well together. Don't think about leaving the palace anymore." When did I ever say I wanted to leave? Because I gave birth to the emperor's son. He promoted me to imperial noble consort and issued a general amnesty across the land. The doors of Longqing Palace also opened. But Li Pin still didn't leave her chambers. Now, she was carrying my brother's child. At that time, my brother said the pills she used to fight for favor had damaged her body and made her infertile, but that was a lie. He just didn't want to see the woman he loved lying with another man. That was why he and she came up with the scheme to trick me into coming to the palace to get pregnant and have the child. On the little prince's full-month celebration day, the emperor held a banquet in the palace, and all the consorts had to attend. After the banquet, Li Pin met with me alone. Her belly was tightly wrapped, but her growing bump was still hard to hide. "My Dong, please help me. Give me some medicine to abort the baby. I can't keep this child." She knelt on the ground, her expression full of sorrow. My brother rushed over and helped her up. "My Dong, why do you always make things difficult for Lady Li?" I was speechless. How could I be the one making things difficult for Lady Li? It's you who made her so ashamed with a big belly, she can't show her face. Besides, I never sent you any love potions or warming wines. Brother, Lady Li came to ask me for abortive medicine, not the other way around. "Are you going to kill our child?" He looked at Li Pin and asked slowly. Li Pin shook off his hand. "This is the palace. Are you crazy or trying to get me killed?" I reminded her in time. "Sister, you couldn't conceive before, right? How come you're pregnant now?" Hearing this, Li Pin looked at my brother, her eyes full of questions. Since my brother entered the palace, he was the only one who examined and treated her. She trusted him, but didn't know how selfish he truly was. "Yeah, how could I forget? Lord, you swore before that my body was damaged and I couldn't conceive. That's why I agreed to help you trick my Dong into the palace. So all of this was just to let your sister rise in status." She pointed at me, eyes bloodshot.
Why?
Why can a plain-looking girl win the emperor's favor and become imperial noble consort? And me? Born so beautiful, meant to be showered with honor, but because I believed your words, I lost my future. Lord, you have such a cruel heart. It seemed Li Pin still hadn't understood my brother's true feelings. She was convinced that he betrayed her to make me enter the palace and lose favor. She beat and cursed him mercilessly. My brother said nothing, silently enduring her blows and curses. Later, Li Pin went mad and pulled the hairpin from her head, pressing it against her throat. "Rein Dong, give me the abortive medicine, or if this is exposed, I'll say you seduced me. Then, don't say just you. Even your noble consort sister won't have a good end." My brother's hair was disheveled, his face marked with fingerprints and slaps. "Lady Li, after all these years, don't you know my heart? You hid from me when you entered the palace to compete, saying our family needed you to make a future for your brother. After you entered the palace, I couldn't rest and became a court physician just to watch over you. Lady Li, I'm a man. How do you think I felt watching you day and night trying to please another man with your dancing? watching you eat and sleep poorly because of him. For you, I even tricked my dong into the palace. But who could have expected the emperor to like her instead? He tried to snatch the hairpin from Li Pin's hand. Lady Li, don't worry. I can tell the emperor you are ill and shouldn't go out. Then we'll quietly deliver the child, and my dong will help us get the three of us out of the palace. Seeing my brother approach step by step, Li Pin went even crazier. To this day, you still won't let me go, and you want me to leave the palace with you? He Rindong, you're just a lowly court doctor, but I am Lady Li Pin. What can you offer me? Fancy clothes or carved beams? Rely on you, the brother of an imperial noble consort. You siblings are really good at scheming. She stabbed the hairpin into my brother's chest. If you want to be with me so badly, then let's walk this road to ruin together. After breaking free from him, she went straight to the Empress Dowager's palace. My brother clutched his chest and was stopped at the door. Later, both of them were imprisoned. I was summoned to the palace by the Empress Dowager. She asked me, when you barged into the Emperor's palace, was it a conspiracy between you and your brother? What kind of love potion did you give the Emperor? I was speechless and could only remain silent. When the Emperor heard the news, he rushed to the Empress Dowager's palace and shielded me. Mother, this is not my dong's fault. I've investigated everything. It was all Lord He and Lady Li's conspiracy. He took me away from the Empress Dowager's palace. The matter of your brother and Lady Li is known to the Empress Dowager. I can't protect them. He had already known that behind our encounter was my brother and Lady Li's plan. I considered Lord He your brother and wasn't going to blame him. After all, he brought you to me. But he and Lady Li were too reckless in their actions. 2 cups of poisoned wine were placed before my brother and Lady Li. My brother drank both cups quickly, begging to spare Lady Li's life. After his death, the Empress Dowager sent a white silk cloth. The emperor issued a new decree. Any consort without favor who wished to leave the palace could take gold and leave. Those unwilling could stay and live out their days in the palace. Some sisters happily left the palace, no longer wanting to be trapped behind its walls. Others thought all men were the same. Better to stay in the palace and not worry about food or clothing than serve another man outside. A year later, despite all precautions, I was pregnant again. The emperor stroked my back, smiling broadly, and I angrily kicked him. He held me close and told me about a dream he had. In the dream, he shared a fleeting springtime moment with a strange woman, but when she woke, she scratched her own face. Angry, he let her go, only leaving behind one of her little garments. Later, she refused to see him no matter what, and sent word she would never forgive what he had done. But she was carrying his child. She still refused to meet him. Whenever he visited, she hid inside reading, not even giving him a glance. He told her brother and friends to take good care of her, planning to wait until after the child was born to find her again. But she died in childbirth. He was devastated, and out of love for her, declared her child the crown prince. In the long years to come, he could only hold that little garment and remember her through the stubborn crown prince who shared her temper. My dong, do you know this dream was the one I had after our first time together? The whole dream felt as real as living a lifetime. When I woke up and saw you, all I wanted was to hold you tight. Even if you scratched my face or hated me, I wouldn't let you go. I cupped his face and saw my own reflection in his eyes. No wonder the man from my previous life and this life were so different. It was all because my good brother and Li Pin schemed in between. They deceived both sides, making us each think the other hated us. It was also our own pride. Neither of us wanted to be the first to give in. Only when we lost what we cherished most did we regret not softening our hearts sooner. Zongbao, don't worry. This time, I'll always be by your side. Then, when you sleep alone from now on, could you please stop clutching my little garment to fall asleep? The end.